Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Annie, this is Stanley, and we're here to talk about books. So for today's video, we're going to be doing something a bit different, but it's a format of video I've seen a lot of other booktubers do, which is going through all of the series that I'm in the middle of and whether or not I'm planning to continue them, and then perhaps talk about one or two that might be coming on to the TBR later in the year. So as I said, a lot of people have done this. The most recent one I've seen is Olive's Book Nook, which was the one that prompted me to go through it, because every time I see someone do this and go, oh my God, I've got so many series that I'm in the middle of, I think I'm not in the middle of millions of series. I'm really on top of it and I don't do that. And then I count up and it turns out that it's not true. So we're going to get into that and see what the state of play is for my series. But first of all, let's make some tea. Okay, back at the tea drawers. 12. White peony. Okay. That is a good tea for this pot, because the white tea leaves are quite open and difficult to fit in a tea bag. So having a tray, and a big tray at that, is an excellent way to go about it. There we go, that should be plenty. Good old past me has already boiled the kettle, but we must remember not to overfill this teapot, or it will spill all over everywhere. It's quite big though, so you still get a decent amount of tea in the pot. Oh, not sure there's going to be enough water in the kettle to overfill it. There we go, perfect. White peony, lovely. So now that we've got our tea, which is always an important accompaniment to reading in my book. Oh, see what I did there? Wasn't even deliberate. Let's get into the series. So I am going to be referring to a spreadsheet that I prepared. So if I'm like looking off camera a lot, then that's why, because I can't keep all of this in my head. And also thought it might be fun to have a look back and see when it was that I read the most recent book that I've read in each series, and have a look at the review to help me make the decision as to whether to keep it on the list or not. So going in alphabetical order, I should say first the number of shame. It's not a shame. It's unfortunate perhaps that there are so many, but the number of series that I am currently in the middle of reading is 10, which when I put the spreadsheet together was more than I was expecting, if I'm honest. I was going to say in my defense, but again, don't need to defend it. And it's not really a thing anyway. Most of the series that I'm in the middle of are audiobook series. I tend to listen to series more than I read them physically. So they are going to be mostly audiobooks, because I find it easier to keep track, because I can kind of put the next one into my audiobook library and have it in the list when I'm looking for books to read. I'm hoping that the upcoming reading challenges I'm doing in the year are going to help me move on with some of these series. I've got the Magical Readathon Aurelium Spring Equinox semester coming up in April, and also the new round of prompts from the Reddit Fantasy Bingo Challenge. And I'm committing to going with books that are already on my TBR. So continuing series, physical TBR, ebook TBR, ones that I actually already own, with audiobooks coming in and out as well, because I have subscriptions, so I can just add them in without paying any extra. Rather than buying books specifically to fulfill prompts, I'm going to fulfill prompts with books I own as much as possible. And that goes for if I decide to do Hercules 3.0, the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, which will be coming out in July. And yeah, I'm probably going to sign up for it. Anyway, back to the series. Gosh, waffle-tastic today, Stanley. Why aren't you keeping me on track? Right, so in alphabetical order of author, the first one on the list is the Rivers of London series by Ben Aronovich. I have had a bit of a hit and miss experience with this series so far, but I keep going back to it because it's narrated by Cobner Holbrook Smith, and I love his voice so much. I could just listen to him read absolutely anything, and reading urban fantasy books is pretty good. So I'm going to keep probably going back to it. But it has been a while. Let's see. Next book on the list that I need to read is number 6, The Hanging Tree. And the previous book was Foxglove Summer, which I read in January 2024. So over 2 years ago now that I haven't gone back to this. So let's have a look at the review for Foxglove Summer and see whether I had decided maybe that I wasn't going to carry on, which would be sad because, you know, I need this audio narrator in my ears. Let's have a look. Okay, so I gave it 4 stars, so that's a good sign. This is what it said. I finally got around to the audiobook of the next Rivers of London book by Ben Aronovich, Foxglove Summer. It was great to have Cobner Holbrook Smith back in my ears again. Always, always. He's one of my all-time favourite audiobook narrators and really brings these books to life. I'd taken a break from the series after being very annoyed by something that happened towards the end of the last one, but that aspect of the story went in an interesting direction in this one, so I'm glad I carried on. The main plot is about Peter getting involved in the investigation of 2 girls going missing, which inevitably ends up having supernatural explanation. It was interesting to have Peter out of his element in the country instead of in London, though I missed the usual cast of characters who would normally be more involved. Overall, it was a fun listen, and I'll look forward to listening to the next one with less of a gap this time. Well, it's been over 2 years. I don't know what the gap was before, but that's very positive. And I'm glad that I have read that review because I think I was remembering my annoyance from the previous one and had forgotten that it was mitigated and that I had really enjoyed this last one. So yeah, should definitely have The Hanging Tree move further up the audiobook list. So that's a one successful, hopefully, continuation of a series. Oh, next up is one that's probably the most recent series I've started, which is the Earth End Saga by Gillian Anderson and Jeff Rovin. And I read the first one, A Vision of Fire, in February, so last month, in fact. And yeah, I'm not sure whether I want to carry on because it definitely wasn't the best book I've ever listened to in my life. But I am kind of intrigued. So let's have a look at the review from just last month and see how I'm feeling now. So I did give it 3 stars, so not terrible. That's actually a decent rating from me. It denotes that I enjoyed the book at least. So, review says, I was excited to discover a sci-fi trilogy written by Gillian Anderson and narrated by her in the audiobook versions, so I started listening to the first instalment, A Vision of Fire. Unfortunately, the narration was rather a disappointment, as it was delivered in a very flat monotone that was quite soporific and very much not in keeping with the pace and excitement of the story. The opening chapter was also difficult to follow and full of a lot of impenetrable technobabble, so I almost gave up before it really got going. Things improved a lot with the introduction of protagonist Caitlin O'Hara, a psychologist specialising in trauma in teenagers, who was brought in to try to help the daughter of a UN ambassador when she seems to be struggling after witnessing an assassination attempt on her father. Things get really, really weird after that, but in quite an enjoyable way overall. I really liked Caitlin, especially her relationship with her 10-year-old son and her friendship with Ben, the UN translator. The conclusion to the tale was absolute bobbins, but a lot of fun, and I liked that this story was wrapped up in a satisfying way while still leaving things open to develop further in the rest of the series. So yeah, probably more positive than negative there. A bit more than I was expecting, maybe. So yeah, it's on the list. If it fulfills a prompt, then it'll probably shift up, but it's not one that I'm massively invested in getting back to immediately. Although, given how complicated it was, I think leaving it too long would be bad because then I wouldn't be able to remember what was going on. But I guess we'll find out. Maybe. Oh, next up, Innkeeper Chronicles by Alona Andrews. Yeah, really do need to get to this one as soon as physically possible because I'm on book 5 and that's the last one. So there's no reason not to finish the series. It's not putting me off because there's loads more to go. And I think I've enjoyed it all. I don't know. So Sweep of the Heart is the next one and in fact the last in the series. The previous one was Sweep of the Blade, which I listened to again in January 2024. So this is becoming a theme with my series. over 2 years since I have listened. And this is the last one. What am I waiting for? Oh, come on, prompts. Prompt me to finish the Innkeeper Chronicles. Okay, so January 2024 for Sweep of the Blade. Let's see what I said. 4 stars? What am I waiting for? Come on. In this instalment of the Innkeeper Chronicles by Alona Andrews, the focus shifts from the innkeeper to her sister, who was introduced in the last book. Even though it's been a while since I listened to that one, so obviously serial issue with getting on with this series, I remembered most of the plot. Good. So spending the first hour of this audiobook on a summary of the previous book, admittedly from Maud's point of view rather than Dina's, was a bit tedious. However, it did very effectively set the scene for following Maud to the homeworld of her new vampire paramour's family. Wow. Cue interspecies politics, romantic complications, uncovering a plot by other vampire families, lots of snark and action and fighting, both verbal and physical, as Maud tries to navigate a very precarious situation while protecting her young daughter Helen. Well read, well written, involving, fun, exciting, this series continues to be a great listen. So why haven't I listened to the last? Okay, Stanley, take a note. We're listening to the last in this series soon. Soon we are. It's, got to go higher up the audiobook listening schedule. No reason not to finish that one. Oh, next one up, the Dresden Files. Not sure how I feel about this. It's another one where hit and miss over the course of the series, but I really like the audiobook narrator because it's James Marsden who played Spike in Buffy, and he's great. So it being, I don't think I would have got this far or even read very many of them at all if I'd been reading the physical versions, but the audiobooks are really good. So that's what draws me back. I think I had thought I was giving it up, but then I discovered the next one is actually in my audiobook library. So I have paid for it and it's right there. So there's no reason not to. And that's Turncoat, which is number 11. So I've listened to 10 of these books. So, I should say Rivers of London, not necessarily detriment, but there are 5 more that I haven't listened to, and it is continuing. So it's not like I'm nearly at finishing it off. But that's not necessarily an issue because those are quite episodic. There is some main plot that runs through, and the characters are obviously continuing with whatever their personal arcs are, but they're quite episodic, so it's not bad to kind of come back to it now and then. Anyway, back to the Dresden Files. Similar situation. Book 18 was published in January, so there's at least 8 more that I haven't read. So the previous one was Small Favour, which, oh no. Yeah, I read Small Favour in September 2019. So it's getting on for 7 years. Wow, since I actually read a Dresden Files book. So that does suggest to me that I had decided to give up on it. But I had bought, after listening to Small Favour, I had bought Turncoat because I only put them on the list after I finished the previous one. So I must have wanted to carry on at that point. Oh, this is an interesting one. Okay, so September 2019. Let's see what I said about Small Favour, book 10. 3 stars. Could go either way. I very much enjoyed spending multiple hours listening to James Masters tell me the story. Yep, he embodies Harry Dresden extremely well. The book felt a bit light on plot and a bit heavy on fighting. It also had a brutal ending with consequences that will definitely reach further into the series, but overall it was a fun listen. Well, intriguing, but I don't remember anything about the continuing plot. So I'm either going to have to go back and listen to that one again or look up some kind of summary, I guess, because going into the next one blind, I don't think would be a good idea because I think there'd be too much. I'm sure there's like recaps of Dresden Files, so I can probably find some kind of summary to remind me of the main plot points. Yeah, I mean, I would welcome James Masters being back in my ears. So again, if the prompts fall in the right direction for prompting me to read it, it may come back. But yeah, it's a lot still to go. Another 8 is a lot. And again, hit and miss over the course of the series. I think, yeah, not committed to that one, but we'll see whether it comes up. Oh, next one's another fairly recent one, The Saint of Steel by T. Kingfisher. I read Paladin's Grace in December of last year, so not that long ago. And it is a trilogy, so there's only 2 more to go. But I did have some issues, as you'll hear when I read the review of Paladin's Grace from December last year. 2 stars. Why is this even on my list? You will discover. The Paladin series by T. Kingfisher has been recommended to me a few times, and I've been meaning to try more of T. Kingfisher's books, so I thought I'd give the first one a try. It's about a paladin named Stephen whose god dies, so he's left somewhat at a loose end, with the risk of falling into a berserker rage hanging over him. He meets Grace, a perfumer, and the attraction between them is pretty much instant. There is some plot. Someone is leaving severed heads lying around the city, and there's an assassination attempt that both Stephen and Grace end up embroiled in. But the vast majority of the book is focused on their romance, and the way it was presented and developed over the course of the book really annoyed me. I remember it well. Very annoying. It's incredibly repetitive, with each of them continually fantasizing about the other, then berating themselves for being ridiculous or shameful, and assuming over and over again that the other one could never be interested in them. Ad nauseum. Even when things do progress between them, there's still an extended misunderstanding and more endless browbeating and self-loathing before things finally get resolved. And it was really just very irritating. I rolled my eyes so many times while reading this book, I'm surprised they didn't roll out of my head. Both plot strands were quite interesting, but neither got remotely enough page time to feel fully fleshed out, and then one was resolved through a massive coincidence and the other through a deus ex machina, so neither was very satisfying. I did, however, absolutely love all the peripheral characters, the other paladins, Grace's friend and landlady, and especially the Bishop of the White Rat. So while I can't say I really enjoyed this book all that much overall, I'm actually planning to continue with the series because each subsequent book follows different characters I really like, and I'm hoping the other romances will be handled differently and be more enjoyable. So there you go. I didn't really like this one. There are only 2 more, and I know that there's a prompt coming up in the buzzword challenge that would be fulfilled by the next Paladin book. So I do want to give it another try. I've been trying with T. Kingfisher and not necessarily succeeding, although I absolutely loved her Digger comics written under the name of Ursula Vernon. Really massive 5-star read for me, really amazing. So I keep trying with her other books, her T. Kingfisher books. So yeah, probably will come up eventually. Next up is Upper Kingdom by H. Leighton Dixon, which I came across in a very amusing way, which I think will be in the review. So I read To Journey in the Year of the Tiger in September 2024, so a little while ago. There are also ebooks, so I don't ever tend to think to pick up ebooks, but again, maybe a prompt will come up that will be useful. So there's 4 more. No, there's 4 in total, so there's 3 more. There's an original trilogy which may complete the story in a way that will allow me to then give up on it, and then there's another one that was published later. But yeah, let me read the review for this because it's hilarious. September 2024. 4 stars I gave this one. A friend of mine sent me a quiz recently which had titles and short descriptions of fantasy novels that may or may not have been real. I didn't do particularly well at guessing, but was delighted to discover that To Journey in the Year of the Tiger by H. Leighton Dixon was actually real. I bought the whole trilogy immediately and thoroughly enjoyed the first instalment, and then didn't read the others because, no idea. The description reads, this is a powerful post-apocalyptic story of lions and tigers, wolves and dragons, embracing and blending the cultures of dynastic China, ancient India, and feudal Japan. Half feline, half human, this genetically altered world has evolved in the wake of the fall of human civilization. Yeah. And frequent annoying typos and surface errors aside, I'd love the opportunity to correct them all so they don't detract from other readers' experience because this book deserves more readers. It's pretty good. It's a little bit turgid to start with, too much clunky exposition, but the array of really fantastic characters really brings it to life once it gets going. Captain Kirin Wingard Grey is tasked by his empress with taking a disparate group of anthropomorphic cats on a quest to discover why the seers of Shah Hadin are dying one by one. What a sentence. I love a group of antagonistic misfits on a mysterious quest stories, and this is a good one. The various interrelationships are great, and all the characters are interesting and very layered. There are also some fascinating and very unexpected developments as the plot progresses, and I look forward to finding out what happens in the next book. Right, another one, Stanley. We need to be prompted to read this because I hadn't remembered that I enjoyed it that much and that it was that good. So definitely need to get on with finishing this trilogy. Quartet. Okay, next up, The Daidoji Shin Mysteries by Josh Reynolds. I am up to number 3, The Flower Path, and I read Death's Kiss, number 2, in May of 2023, so nearly 3 years ago. Another one that I have let languish. There are 3 more for me to read. So yeah, let's see what I said about Death's Kiss. 3 stars, so not a massive endorsement. After a successful family book club meeting where I chose the first Daidoji Shin mystery by Josh Reynolds to discuss, I started listening to the second one, Death's Kiss. I still love the dynamic between Shin and his bodyguard Kazami, as well as the way he interacts with, and generally annoys, all the other characters as well. The banter is definitely the biggest draw to this series. I also still had some problems following all the different factions and allegiances of the many characters involved in the story, something I think would be easier if reading a text version of the book, so I may switch to physical copies for the others in the series. Interesting. The mystery this time was really interesting. A man was killed, but everyone knew who did it because she confessed and was in custody even before Shin was summoned to investigate. Nearly everyone involved was satisfied with the proposed verdict, but Shin wouldn't let it go and obviously uncovered a lot more layers of intrigue and betrayal along the way. Really fun. Yeah, I do remember them being fun. I hadn't remembered about maybe switching to physical copies, but if I want to carry on with my not buying new books idea, I will have to stick with the audio versions. So yeah, not wholly enthused, but if it comes up, then I will carry on. Next one I will have to buy. The Retrieval Artist series by Christine Catherine Roosh are only available in physical copies or possibly ebook. I probably could get the ebooks. I've been buying the physical copies because they're really nice editions of books. And I am up to number 11. I've read 10 of these and they are fantastic. I love this series. The next one is Search and Recovery, and I read A Murder of Clones in August of 2025, so not that long ago. And there are 5 more, so it goes up to book 15, and that is the series complete. And I am very keen to get back to this one. So August 2025, Murder of Clones. Yep, 4 stars. A Murder of Clones by Christine Catherine Roosh is book 10 in the Retrieval Artist series, and I really enjoyed returning to this world for another instalment. I think it's the best series I've read for portraying alien cultures and species as truly alien. Yep, absolutely. And a lot of the books are about legal dilemmas for humans dealing with unfamiliar rule systems on far-off worlds. This book is a bit of a side quest from the main plot thread, introducing all new characters but providing some insight and developments about the terrorist attack on the moon that happened over the last couple of books. I liked the new characters and I'm keen to find out what happens next, whether it includes them or not, though I'm hoping some of them will connect up with more familiar folks in upcoming books. I've still got 5 to go, but I'm determined to finish this series before too long. So yes, definitely need to get back onto that. I will prioritise it if a decent prompt comes up, but I will have to then buy the book. So bit of a downside on that one. But 1 book. I can buy 1 book, can't I, Stanley? Can't I? You'll let me, won't you? Because you're a nice bear. Right, 2 more to go. Next one up, Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. I have read 9 volumes of this manga series. Last time I read one was December 2024, and there were only 2 more out, so it only went up to number 12, and it's ongoing. It's very much ongoing, no end in sight as far as I'm aware. There's now up to volume 15, so there's 5 more available. I do read them on my phone, so I get the ebook versions and read comics on my phone. It's a manga series about a young girl who accidentally turns her mother to stone and is then taken in by a witch, a male witch, and trained to use her magic. It's really good, but I think it's been a little bit of a while. There's meant to be a TV show coming out in April this year, which I definitely would want to watch because that sounds awesome. I'm not sure. I think I've got the next 3 volumes loaded onto my phone, so there's no reason not to read them because I do own them. Let's see what I said about volume 9. 4 stars. Over the course of the second half of the year, this was just 2024, I've completed volumes 7 to 9 of Witch Hat Atelier, and I'm continuing to enjoy the complex layered story of Coco and her involvement in witch training. I love all the characters, there's a lot of emotional depth and intrigue, and I'm very interested to see where the story will go next. My reading of these 3 volumes was spread out over a much longer period of time than my consumption of the first 6 volumes, so I didn't feel quite as engaged or connected to the story, but it's still really good. Yes, that suggests leaving it for nearly 2 years isn't necessarily the best way forwards, but yeah, again, if it comes up. I tend to read comics when I'm on train journeys or I'm out and about and I don't want to carry a physical book with me. And so I have them loaded on my phone, and that hasn't been the case recently, so I haven't been prompted to pick the next one up. And I think I've read quite a lot of other manga and comics in the meantime to fulfill specific prompts for Herkid, so that's why Witch Hat Atelier hasn't come back round. But yeah, I would like to carry on with it. So, last one I'm in the middle of is Murderbot by Martha Wells, which I'm sure most of my viewers will be familiar with. I read the first one a long time ago and then reread that one and the second one as part of my Reviews Revisited series, where I pick books that I haven't read for a long time and don't really remember, and then reread them and compare my views with when I originally read them. So I read the first 2, or listened to the first 2, last summer, August 2025, because I was prompted by the TV show, because my husband Dave and I have really enjoyed watching the TV show, and I thought it would be interesting to revisit the series. Book 8 is due out in 2026, so that's obviously still going strong. I know not all of them are novellas because they're pretty short, most of them, but I think there are a couple of full-length novels in there as well, so it is a bit of a commitment. But I don't know how much you need to keep track of what's going on in the series as it continues, so I don't know. Let's see what I said. 3 stars, so not fantastic. I had read the first book in this series before, but the second book was new to me, and I also didn't have the benefit of a TV adaptation to help me out, so I did struggle a bit with understanding the details of the mission in the second half. However, the characters aside from Murderbot are given a lot more detail and individuality this time around, so it was easier to engage with the interrelationships. I loved art, the research, transport, and the development of its relationship with Murderbot was my favourite aspect of this book. I also liked the through line of Murderbot trying to understand things from its past, which was carried over from the first book. I may carry on with the series at some point, but I'm not invested enough to want to jump straight back in. So yeah, it's not a massive endorsement, not really encouraging me to think that I want to read the next one. But again, if prompts come up, the audiobooks are around, I may well go back to them. So that's the 10 series that I'm in the middle of. None of them that I'm now thinking I definitely don't want to carry on with, and a few that I've definitely, my excitement levels have been increased by doing this exercise, so that's good.
Come on, hey! Oh. Come on. Hey! One more time, please. Oh.
In terms of new series, because this is always the issue, is starting new series when there are so many to carry on with, I actually have 23 new series on my TBR, which if I started all of those, that would become a problem. So let's not do that. Let's try and finish some off or continue some before we start new ones. But having said that, There are a few that are on my radar, or that I do actually own copies of. And the first one that has unexpectedly come onto my March TBR is Wolf Hall, for reasons that will become clear in an upcoming video. I don't know. There's only 3 of them, but it's almost 2,000 pages worth of dense historical fiction. So I'm going to see how I get on with the first one and then take it from there. But this is coming up soon on my TBR for reasons. I also have the Black Magician trilogy by Trudy Canavan, which has been on my shelf for a while, at least a couple of years. I went round to a friend's house and they were getting rid of some of their books and asked if I wanted any. So I picked these up for free, complete trilogy. Never got around to reading it earlier in my life because they're quite old, I think. Let's see. 2001, more recent than I thought, but still quite a while ago now. So they've been sitting on the shelf for ages. I'm definitely going to start this series this year because I'm taking part in TBR Spin with Sarah Freshley from Freshly Read Books, where you pick 12 books and you commit to reading one a month. And the Magician's Guild, which is the first one, is also coming up on the Buzzword Challenge because I need to read a book with some kind of group or society in the title, and guild works for that. So this is definitely coming up. I've been putting it off, but there's no reason not to give it a try. Then I also, based on enthusiastic reviews from one of the booktubers that I really like, bought the first book of Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, which I've heard many, many good things about. The only issue with this is that I think I might get quite invested in this series, and there's only 4 out at the moment out of a planned 9. So I don't really want to start and then want to read all the rest of it and then have to wait absolutely ages for the last 5 for over half the series to come out. So I'm not convinced about reading this one, but I do own it now, so it is on the shelf. And then last and very much not least, I need some advice from anybody who is reading this series, which seems to be everybody in the world right now. Should I start listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinnerman? So many people have raved and raved, especially about the audiobooks. I did listen to a sample and the audiobook narrator didn't appeal to me at all. So I'm thinking that maybe not. And I'm also very well aware that the type of humour that there is in these books is very much not my kind of humour. Some of the booktubers that I have heard talking about this have said, don't worry about it, it's fine. And others have said that if it's really not your kind of humour, then it's probably not a good idea to get invested. The 8th book is due out this year, so it's a lot. It's a lot. And I know people are saying that, you know, there's cliffhangers and a continuing story and you get sucked in. Do I want to start Dungeon Crawler Carl? I don't know. I guess I won't know unless I give it a try. Will I? Really? At the end of the day? But I'm just not sure I want to get dragged in. Especially if there's going to be aspects that I really don't like alongside aspects that really make me want to read the rest. So I'm very conflicted. So if anybody's got any thoughts or advice on Dungeon Crawler Carl, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know how many series are you in the middle of right now? And do you find that an issue, finishing them off or continuing them at a pace that makes sense? But that aside, that is the end of this video. 10 series in progress, 3 or 4 on the docket, and another 20 or so potentials. So it is a continuing thing, continuing series. But yes, thank you very much for watching this video. Please do like it if you liked it, and subscribe if you want more content from me and Stanley talking about books. And in the meantime, I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye for now.